Today, President Donald Trump had an announcement, and it was a disastrous one. Let me share it with you.
I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. In a few moments, I will sign a presidential memorandum to begin reinstating U.S. nuclear sanctions on the Iranian regime. We will be instituting the highest level of economic sanction. Any nation that helps Iran in its quest for nuclear weapons could also be strongly sanctioned by the United States. America will not be held hostage to nuclear blackmail. We will not allow American cities to be threatened with destruction, and we will not allow a regime that chants death to America to gain access to the most deadly weapons on earth. Today's action sends a critical message. The United States no longer makes empty threats. When I make promises, I keep them.
Okay, that's as disastrous as you could possibly have. Let me break it down for you. First of all, filled with complete and utter lies. So he talked about how Iran is holding us hostage. How so? We already have a deal with them, and we took away their uranium and their nuclear energy program. They didn't have a nuclear weapons program, but we foreclosed any opportunity for them to have a nuclear weapons program by ending their nuclear energy program. By the way, we have nuclear energy, we have nuclear weapons, so do our allies like Israel that are also in the Middle East. You know how we did it? We froze the assets of the Iranians, their own money. We held their money hostage. And then we blackmailed them because we basically took away their money in a way that I think was totally wrong. But I'm happy we did. Look, I know it's wrong, but on the other hand, we took away their nuclear energy program. It was a great deal. It was an unbelievable deal. We returned nothing except basically their stolen money to them. Okay, we're the ones who took hostages and did blackmail of Iran. It's true, and I'm telling you. Look, at the end of the day, it wound up really great for us, so I'm not necessarily opposed to that policy. It was pretty cold-hearted policy, and we were not in the right, but that's okay, we got a great result. Well, Donald Trump just ripped that deal up right now, and then he says they've threatened American cities with destruction. No, they haven't. Where? When did they threaten Seattle or San Antonio? No, we're the ones invading countries in the Middle East. So it's not to say that I like the Iranian regime. I don't want them having nuclear weapons. I don't like their regime. I don't buy any of this nonsense about how they're having elections. You know, look, I know our own donors have an oligarchy where they choose who the candidates we vote for are. But yes, the mullahs do something even more stark and clear. And yes, it is clearly run by the Ayatollah and the oligarchy of the mullahs in Iran. I am against their form of government, and I want to liberate the Iranian people. But they did not threaten to destroy our cities. We're the ones starting wars in the Middle East. So that's just not true. Categorically not true that they tried to say that they were going to destroy us. It's just preposterous. We don't need this conflict. And Donald Trump has opened up a can of worms. Of course, he has no idea because he's a mental midget. And so he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to deliver on my promises. And I'm not going to allow them to gain access to nuclear weapons. We already did that. That was the point of the deal. So now Iran says they will fiercely resist this and are now threatening to reopen their nuclear energy plant. Yeah, well played, Donald Trump. Total, absolute moron. By the way, if you're a libertarian and you voted for Donald Trump, you're an absolute sucker. I told you he's a pathological liar. I told you that he would just do whatever the folks with money, the donors, told him to do, and they told him to start this conflict, and he has started this conflict. If we get into a war with Iran, that'll be way worse than what we had in Iraq. And Iraq was already an epic failure, one of the worst decisions America has ever made. Land-wise, Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq. And Iraq has 37 million people. Iran has 81 million. They have a real army and they have real allies like Russia. This is an epic failure on the part of Donald Trump. Well, John Bolton, now his national security advisor, is a neocon who pushed for the Iraq war. He told them, oh yeah, we got this, just like we did Iraq. This is gonna be great, great. Mike Pompeo, another neoconservative war hawk monger, saying, oh yeah, go get it, Mr. President. We don't need any peace deals. We'll show the Iranians. Total idiots. So look, I know the military-industrial complex that funds all these politicians think, oh, that last war turned out disastrous for everyone else and 5,000 Americans died in Iraq. But 50,000 got their limbs blown off, got severely injured. But who cares? We made money. You think the Iraq war was a disaster for you? You're right. But was it a disaster for the people who made the war happen? No. No, the defense contractors made billions upon billions in profits. By the way, so did the oil companies, because wars in the Middle East create instability in the oil markets and oil prices go up. So the people who paid for that war got everything they ever bargained for. But they're making a wrong gamble in Iran. Believe it or not, Iraq was a small-scale war. Iran will not be small-scale. It will, let alone the carnage that it could create. It will devastate the global economic markets. And then all those donors will go, oops, except a couple of the donors who say, oh, whatever the Israeli right wing wants, well, then we're going to give it to them. And by the way, the other faction here that is monumentally important is the new regime in Saudi Arabia. They hate Iran. They're fighting Iran in a proxy war in Yemen. So, well, Donald Trump has a lot of deals with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia also buys a lot of weapons from our defense contractors. So the powerful people in this country are like, oh yeah, Saudi Arabia is right. Oh, we can just win a war with Iran. No big deal. Let's rip up the peace treaty and let them pursue their nuclear energy program again. It makes no sense if you're a rational human being and you care about the American people. But if you don't care about the American people, you're in a defense contractor and you make money from death and war and destruction, you're an oil company, it might make sense in the short term. But even for those guys, in the long term, they're going to get way more than they bargained for, unfortunately. And I hope to God it doesn't lead to war, but it doesn't look good right from the get-go. So let me give you more details. HuffPost explains the US will not extend waivers on sanctions targeting Iran's nuclear program, effectively ending its compliance with the 2015 international agreement under which Iran accepted restrictions on its nuclear program in exchange for economic relief. Now, let's be clear. Later, they will lie, and most of the American media will call it 50-50 and say, oh, Iran was the one that broke the deal. No, you just saw it with your own eyes. We broke the deal. We broke it, okay? Now, here's one other lie from Donald Trump. Watch.
At the heart of the Iran deal was a giant fiction that a murderous regime desired only a peaceful nuclear energy program. Today, we have definitive proof that this Iranian promise was a lie.
No, you're the only liar in the room. So what he's referring to is Netanyahu's total BS speech about, oh my God, Iran lied. Now, in brackets is in the past. Wait, there's a giant difference. If Iran lied in the past, and again, I don't trust their regime. I don't think they're good guys at all. I think they oppress their own people. But if they lied in the past before the deal, and we caught them, and then we made the deal, and they have not lied since, okay, you make peace deals with your enemies, not with your friends. If they lied after the deal, well, that would be really important, and they would be in violation of the deal. But let's clarify here. Again, HuffPost explains, much of Netanyahu's presentation centered on information that was publicly available in a 2007 declassified intelligence report, and Netanyahu did not state that Iran was in current violation of the deal. All that was marketing with old information. This is just like the lead up to the Iraq war. Old, outdated information, and then you put it in the same sentence as, well, I mean, I had to kill the deal because Iran lied. Wait, they lied back in 2007. It has nothing to do with this deal. And we already knew that. It's declassified information. So when Trump makes it seem like Iran broke the deal by lying about this deal, that is totally 100% not true. In fact, his own defense secretary doesn't think it's true. I'll get to that in a second. So why is he doing this? For a number of reasons. One, on the campaign trail, he had called this the worst deal ever. Now, that leads to So why did he call it the worst deal ever? Why? Because one, he's a lying politician, and he had to say, I make the best deals. Everybody else is terrible. They make the terrible deals, the worst deals. We haven't been winning. We've been losing, and I'm going to start winning. So that was his strategy, and a bunch of idiots believed it and voted for him. Yes, I'm talking to you, the Trump voters. Oh no, and especially the libertarians, or the ones that fancy themselves libertarians. Oh no, Trump is for America first, and he's not going to get us involved in wars in the Middle East. He said Iraq was a disaster. Why did he say that? Because everyone else sucks and Trump is the best. Oh, Bush, he didn't know what he was doing. I'm running against Jeb Bush. The Iraq war was a disaster. Even though he was in favor of the Iraq war. I said many years, he said, I said it was wrong. He said it way after everybody realized the Iraq war was wrong. So just nothing but nonstop lies. But the second reason he said it during the campaign is everything Obama does, I spit on it. I'm against it. Paris Climate Accord, well, then I'm against it. Well, the whole world's for it. Well, Obama was for it, so I'm against it. Iran deal, Obama was for it, so I'm against it. Obamacare, he was for it, so I'm against it. And the list goes on and on and on. He has a sick, sick problem with Obama. So anyway, I'll leave that portion of it alone. Well, let's go back to Trump in the past. Trump has long pressed his advisors to come up with an alternative strategy to contain Iran's nuclear efforts. When his advisors failed to deliver, Trump ordered Congress in October to pass legislation that would unilaterally change US commitments under the deal. In other words, he's like, I'm going to make the best deals. Okay, all my advisors, come up with a better deal than this. They come back to him, they're like, sorry, sad to report, this is actually a great deal, and we literally cannot make it any better. Okay, then I'm going to go over to Congress. Congress, you make it better. Sorry to report, Mr. President, but you're an idiot. And us Republicans were liars, and we lie all the time in the middle of elections because we hate the other side and we want our supporters to hate the other side. So we pretended it was a bad deal, but in reality, we literally have no idea how to make it better. So that Congress passed nothing. Okay, so is it true that Iran is in violation? Again, that lie is so bold and brazen that he grazes it by saying Netanyahu and Iran and they were lying, but he can't actually say that they violated the deal because they haven't. The International Atomic Energy Agency, which monitors the use of nuclear energy, has verified Iranian compliance with the agreement multiple times since 2015 when they struck the deal. Most recently in March of this year. They are in compliance. We are sending invasive researchers and people who are trained at the International Atomic Energy Agency to do this for a living into their country, which we would never allow in our country. Could you imagine if the UN came in and said, that's a step aside, we're going to inspect all your nuclear, not only weapons programs, but energy programs. We would never allow them to do that in America. But Iran agreed to it because we held their money hostage. And they report back, no, they don't have it. They're not pursuing a nuclear energy program. They're not, they're in compliance. Okay, but they're not alone. Defense Secretary James Mattis, that's Trump's defense secretary, an outspoken critic of the Iranian government, testified before Congress on April 26th of this year that the nuclear deal provided, quote, robust measures to inspect Iran's nuclear program and verify that it is complying with the deal. So, unsurprisingly, another lie by the Trump White House that is can't even be verified by their own defense secretary or the UN. So, last month, an Iranian foreign minister, Javad Zarif, suggested if the US pulled out of the nuclear accord, his country could also exit the deal and resume its nuclear program at a much greater speed. Iran has no reason to continue to abide by the agreement if the economic benefits start to diminish, he said. Oh boy. The whole world needs to buckle up for this. And look, let's talk about, is there any way to avoid conflict? Let me give you this one part that's important. As HuffPost again explains, but most of the economic benefits Iran receives through the nuclear deal do not come directly from the US, which maintains a primary embargo against Iran. When Trump previously waived sanctions, he suspended secondary sanctions, which penalize other countries for doing business with Iran. So that's good news, bad news. The good news is most of the benefits, economic benefits to Iran come from the other countries involved in the deal, European countries and Russia, okay? So now, obviously Russia is also part of Europe, but the European countries are one bloc, France, Germany, etc., and Russia is a separate power, And they all agreed to it. The US agreed to it, the Russians agreed to it, Europeans and the Iranians. So now the Europeans and the Russians want to continue the deal. So they might continue the deal, which might keep Iran in the deal and then not restart their nuclear energy program and not create more hostilities. Now, we've taken away a lot of their incentive to do so. Now, the bad news is, now Trump is saying, don't test me, I mean what I say. Remember, what he's actually threatening is action against our allies. He's saying if our allies do business with Iran, which they are now under the old deal, he's like, I'm going to strike against our allies. Obviously not militarily, but economically. What a terrible, terrible idea. So not only do you violate a peace deal for no goddamn reason, but then you turn around and antagonize our allies and the Russians against us. This is the one moment where I hope and pray that Trump actually does have a deal with the Russians and is colluding with them. Look, if you say it right now, it certainly doesn't look like it. Russia doesn't want him to do this. You are right about that. So let's see how this thing plays out. Because I'm crossing my fingers, and here again, I hope he's got a deal. Where Putin says, what are you doing? No, back down, right? Look, it's too late. He did the press conference. It appears to be too late, but who knows with Trump? But by the way, if Trump thinks, I don't need Putin anymore, and they had a deal, these are ifs, okay? And Putin goes, what did you say? Well, then the next shoe to drop would be whatever Putin has on Trump would start to get released. So, now look, that might get Trump out of office if I'm right about that. But Mike Pence also agrees with John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, and the Republican donors, and also wants this war. He might want it even more than Trump, and he doesn't appear to have any deal with the Russians. So now the last part of this is, guys, you put aside the speculation on the Russians being able to stop this or not, and let's just assume for a second there's no secret deals or anything. So we have us, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, and some of the other Sunni governments on our side. Okay, and we're the ones violating the deals. Okay, on the other side, you have Iran, Russia, and then you got to see where China and Europe come out on this. But if we start an actual war with Iran, again, they think it's going to be a pushover. No, Iran has a real army, and they have a ton of people, and it's tough geography over there. They've got mountains, they've got their weapons programs, conventional weapons, deep in the bunkers inside the mountains. They got 81 million people. We think we have air superiority and sea superiority. Against just Iran, maybe. If Russia comes in, no, not at all. But even if it's quote unquote just against Iran and hence against all the Shia Muslims in the world is basically what it'll come to. They could plant mines all over the water and that could do untold damage to our ships. Here's another thing they could do. They could release 100, 1,000, 10,000 drones into the sky. And then all of a sudden, and where are they going to get them from? First of all, we've been selling those drones all over the world. Second of all, they could easily buy it from the Russians or the Chinese. And then all of a sudden, the air superiority we thought we had, oops, Jesus Christ, the sky is filled with drones. So look, I hope to God it never comes to any of that. But we're messing now for the first time with an actual world war. Not a little war in the Middle East. And yes, I'm referring to Iraq, which was an epic disaster. As compared to Iran, would be a little war in the Middle East. So that's what Donald Trump did today. And unfortunately, since the Republican Party is deeply corrupt, even if you got Trump out of office, it wouldn't get any better. Well, now with this press conference, it can't get any worse. But Pence is not any kind of saving grace. So the Republican Party has spoken. They are for war. They will always be for war. And God help us if this triggers that conflict in the Middle East. And right now we're headed on that path with nothing but neoconservatives surrounding Donald Trump, telling him, oh, Mr. President, you're a stable genius. You're so tough and strong. Of course you'll be able to bully the Iranians and get them to do whatever you want and bully everyone else allied with Iran. Of course, and even our allies, of course there'll be pushovers, Mr. President. Everyone else is weak and you're incredibly strong, Mr. President. Oh, yeah, I like that. I like that kind of talk. And so now we're on this path. God help us all. If those hostilities start, there is no end to them, and it would be a disaster like we have not seen in our lifetimes. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.